Good. Okay, I'm live on YouTube. So let's get going with your parenting questions. By the way, this is the last day for the Black Friday sale on my boot camp course. And so check that out. It ends tonight, 11:30. That is Pacific time, which is my time, California time, Vancouver time. I'm here in Vancouver, by the way. When diaper change is a battle, suggestions plays. That's when you overpower them. It's one of those things, you got to win these battles. If you just let them overpower you when they're really little and on a change table, imagine what's to come down the road. So I'll give you a good example of how this works. When I was going to change my kids, you know, they get the squirming wormins and they turn into a twisting crocodile. I just held them down, and I was very fast. I just put my arm across their chest and I just changed them like that really quickly. They didn't put up a stink for long. They knew mom was in charge, but they fought a lot more with dad because they knew that he would say, okay, do you want a toy? Okay, you can stand up for a minute and then we'll, so they learn who's in charge pretty quickly. So yeah, just overpower them. You got to win these small battles, okay? And the bigger ones are easier down the road. Okay, and the link above, everything's up there. The behavior board, by the way, I got to put a note here somewhere because tons of people say, I didn't get the behavior board. It sometimes takes a few minutes. So you sign up for the behavior board. It might take 10 minutes. So I get all these emails that I haven't got it. I haven't got it. I don't actually answer those emails because I know they're going to get it within 10 minutes. So just so you know, the behavior board is completely free. It's up in the link above. It's just where I've got it put. It's in Podia, which is where all my courses are. That's why it takes 10 minutes, and I'm okay with that. And then also the bootcamp course, that's from 3 to 12 years old, teaches you how to be a leader. That's on sale right now. Black Friday ends tonight. And then my coaching. Okay. I spend time with my kids all day, but at nighttime, my daughter cries and whines and says, I want you and won't sleep. Tips. Yeah, she's got you wrapped around a little finger. That's all that is. Just say, no, you go to bed. Check out my Bedtime Battles course. That teaches you how to get them in bed and how to keep them there. So yeah, she's just used to getting her own way. That's all. And she's taking advantage. That's my guess. You know, that's a bit of a tell. I could be wrong, but that's the most normal. That's the most common situation. Okay, my 6-year-old broke his tablet out of anger on a game. Would you ever replace it? Or since he broke it, it's his? Yeah, that's a tough one. If he's got that, you know, you got stuff to work on. If he's got that kind of a temper and will go that far at 6 years old, I would suggest, think about does he respect you? Is he rude to you? Or, you know, does he have tantrums often like that? Like that's sort of next level. That's next level. At 6 years old, he knows he's doing something big when he breaks his tablet. So yeah, anyway, check out the boot camp course. It's on sale, ends tonight if you're interested, or you might want to hire me to figure out what's going on there because that's kind of next level. So that's not a quick answer. So I can't tell you what I'd do. I'd have to figure out your relationship. What's the history? Is he just going to, if you get him something new, is he just going to wreck it? My gut reaction is there's no way I'd replace that right away. That's for sure. But yeah. And never be afraid of a scene. I just did a video. Where am I? I'm on Instagram. Okay. On TikTok, I don't actually know when my Instagram videos are coming up. So, but on TikTok, I just did a video on sugar. What was my point? Oh, I've got it right here. Embrace tantrums, outbursts, and scenes. In other words, never be afraid of a scene. If you know you're doing the right thing and you're taking charge and you're working on your leadership skills, if you're afraid of their scenes or their tantrums or their fits or outbursts, they're in charge. You have to be willing to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. That's them processing. They're not going to get what they want, when they want, and how they want it. So yeah. My daughter's 5. She is high energy. She fights me over everything and refuses to listen. I need help. Check out the boot camp course. That's all. Remember, we're never fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. Once you're a leader, everything kind of falls into place. Work on your leadership skills. You lead, they will follow. I've worked with hundreds of kids, delinquent teenagers. All kids I call them alphabet kids. They all were ADD, ADHD, WXYZ. They were all challenging kids because those are the ones I worked with, right? So yeah, and I managed to get respect with all of them. So it's about you. All about you. And high energy, yeah, that's irrelevant. That just means she's high energy. It can be good energy or bad energy. So my daughter doesn't play with any toys. She just throws everything on the floor. I don't know how old she is. Is she 1, 10? I need an age. I have a 2-year-old, 2 and 8 months. Sleeping time or not settling, both are you have a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old. Sleeping time or not settling, both are totally different. Okay, for the 2-year-old, you can check out my Bedtime Battles course. I don't have a course on baby sleep training. There's a very good reason for that. It would be very short. Just let them cry it out. But you keep going in to reassure them that you're there. At the most, you can sit beside their bed in the dark. They can barely see you like a nightlight, and you're nodding off with your arm in the crib. So they know you're there, and all they get is your arm. They might be screaming, having a fit, and you're just like this. You're nodding off. Look bored as anything. Do not do that with the 2-year-old. You do that with the 8-month-old. But yeah, that would be too short of a course. So I haven't got a course on that. Maybe I'll do one day. I could elaborate and add a whole bunch of other stuff in there. But anyway, I keep those courses. I'm very particular. My courses used to be gigantic, and I have edited them down. People say we want it simple, right to the point, hit the bullet points. So that's what I've done. What I do is when I write out a course, all I do is cut out 50% of it, and then it's ready to go. So, I can go on and on and on. My 18-month-old hits and kicks a lot. She laughs when I hold her hands and says no. So frustrating. Yeah, she'll eventually learn. When you start, okay, they're about consistent corrective actions, and you say no, and you're probably staying there too long. If she's hitting and kicking, you just say no, and then you push her away. You don't shove her down, but you just push her away, and then you walk away. She'll eventually learn. It's just a stage. They go through stage after stage after stage. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is you child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is you bond with a toddler by entering their world. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is you discipline them in their world. It's all about consistent corrective actions. It's not about words. Don't do the mini therapy sessions. I know they're very trendy right now, discussing big feelings, telling little children to use their words. How patronizing and ignorant is that? Craziness is their world. Okay, what you're telling them is find your inner adult. You're not good enough communicating the way you're meant to communicate. Geez, that's so patronizing. Anyway, number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. I'm going to emphasize that. I know there's a trend right now in trying to help a toddler self-regulate and all this garbage. It's absolutely ridiculous. All that stuff is just invented to make the mom feel good about herself. It has nothing to do with the toddler. They are about consistent corrective actions. A 2-year-old does not need a mini therapy session. That's absolutely ludicrous. I remember when I first saw this stuff coming down the pike, it was 30 years ago. I thought, how stupid is that? Still hanging around. I couldn't figure out why it was hanging around because it's useless. And it's because it's feeding the mom's needs. She feels good about herself when she gets down an eye level and says, use your words and all that. That's just patronizing. It's ridiculous. That's what I'm up against. Anyway, whatever. Okay, my son upholds his poop. I can't seem to find a way to solve this. He is upholds his poop. I've never heard it worded that way. He's constantly constipated. Okay, I can't comment on that because that's a medical issue. I know what I did with my kids, but I can't comment on that because I'm not a doctor. So sorry about that. There's lots of things like that. Sometimes I'll give you an example of what I did with my kids, but I don't even want to do that with constipation because that could be a medical issue. But yeah. What are your top tips for being a leader with kids 6 to 9? Check out my boot camp course. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Leadership is all about setting yourself up as a calm leader, a safe place to land, and a good listener. Also, discipline's a tiny part of it. It's a very tiny part of it. It's all about connecting with them and bonding with them. So I don't have any. It's funny because I've got my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers, my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. I don't have anything in the middle because there's too many of them. There's millions of them. So not millions, but there's a whole bunch of them. You're at the height of your leadership skills when they're 3 to 12 years old. That's why the boot camp course is 3 to 12 years old. It's not about the kids, it's about you. That's the height of your leadership skills because it's just teaching you how to be a leader. Anyway, the sale ends tonight, so check that out if you're interested. But one of my top tips is consistency always. My kids knew 100% how I was going to react to anything. They would never ask me anything when they knew the answer was no. And they always knew if I was going to say yes or no. They knew me inside out, upside down. They also had a voice. If they thought I was being unfair about something, they would say that. They'd say, Mom, I feel you're being unfair about that. And I'd say, you're right. Yeah. Okay. What do you want? How can I make it up to you? So they had a voice too. You got to give them a voice. You don't want obedient little soldiers. You want kids with high self-esteem that have a voice. They know who they are. And their behavior between the age of 3 and 12 is 100% a direct result of your parenting. That's because your leadership is at its height. Teenagers, it starts to drop off and change. Okay, Um, there's a lot of questions that are just repetitive, so I tend to not go through this. I like to get a variety. Um, what if I cannot not afford your boot camp? Do you offer anything else? Yeah, I have the free behavior board. That's free. Everyone can afford free. So I'm assuming anyway. So anyway, that's as long as you got a computer, but you're on here, so you got a phone. Yeah, the boot camp course is on sale right now. It ends tonight, but the behavior board's free. Always was, always will be. Okay. 2.5-year-old son, when we tell him no, he follows up with saying no this or no that, even if it's not around him. How do we go about this? Just ignore it. If you, there's just too many examples. I always get stumble when I get too many examples. Let me just pick one. So if you say to your 2-year-old, okay, we're going to go eat dinner now, and he says no, I don't repeat myself. I go pick him up and I put him in the high chair, kicking and screaming. I make sure that whatever I've said is going to happen, it happens. They learn really quickly. It doesn't take long. But if you've given in the past, it's going to be harder. It's going to take you longer to get respect. If you were a dish rag before and they were walking all over you, they're going to put up more of a stink. But yeah, I never did that. So my kids knew right from day one. When mom said it was dinner time, they just sat in the high chair. Like that was it. Because there was no clashing, because they just knew I was a leader. So yeah, if they say no, who cares? Make it happen. What if they cry and vomit during sleep training? He's 18 months. Do you just change them and then continue? That's a tricky one. That's one, if they're going to vomit, and sometimes they do that, they get so upset. If they're going to, well, for one thing, make sure that they don't have much to eat or drink before bedtime. Okay. That's one thing you can do potentially. But also, if they're going to do that, I would actually go in there and sit with them with my hand on a chair, with my hand in the crib, so they could only get access to my hand. And I would sit there like I'm falling asleep, like boring as anything. So see if that would help. But it could be there's lots of other ideas too. If you're really struggling with something, I give general TikTok and Instagram advice and YouTube advice on here. It's very general. If you want extra help, I would have to figure out what you're doing, what kind of parent you are, what the situation is. That's one-on-one coaching. That's in the link above. So yeah, I give general advice on here. Any breastfeeding tips? I have a newborn and not a yeah, I can't discuss that's medical issues. I don't discuss that. Yeah, I can't discuss any formulas or anything. Yeah, I just don't. I teach parent-child relationships, but I stay out of anything medical. One of my 3-year-old bit her twin sister after a long time of not biting. This behavior has not surfaced in a while. Now it's back. Okay, they're 3 years old. They can use my behavior board and put down no biting. And if they bite, there's a consequence. Got to get organized with this stuff. Set up your expectations and your systems and your rules and your consequences and follow through. I asked about the broken tablet. He doesn't respect me. He broke tablets before and toys, etc. You're going to have to hire me. If it's that bad, I said that's next level. He was 6, I believe, and he broke a tablet. That's next level. The boot camp course might not be enough for you. You might have to hire me. That's one-on-one coaching. I'd have to figure out why. Where's all this anger coming from? Why is he so out of control? So yeah, that would be coaching. 3-year-old wants a hug during a tantrum. Yeah, so in other words, I want my way, I want my way. Yeah, I would never hug them during a tantrum. They can hang onto your leg, but I wouldn't. I'd just stand there like I didn't even notice. There's no way I would hug a tantrum. You're validating it. You're encouraging it. That's one more demand that you're filling. Okay? It's just the way it is. Advice for working with parents for home and school behaviors. So you work with parents with home and school. I don't know what you mean by that. So I'm going to skip ahead because Instagram doesn't scroll for me. And I worry that if I answer older questions that those people might have dropped out already. So I'm just scrolling down to get the most recent question. Oh, don't swear on here. I get kids on here. Don't swear on here. You just make yourself look bad. Whenever someone lashes out and everything, they have no idea They just make it's embarrassing for them. I'm always embarrassed for them. You just make yourself look bad. I'm not really embarrassed. I don't have any sympathy for them, but I just kind of go, it must feel awful to be mean, to say rotten stuff. Okay, you're not going to like my answer here. My 1 and 2-year-old act out when we visit people. They ask for water as a way, excuse me, as a way to control me and remove themselves from the situation. I can't ignore it because they tantrum in front of people. Oh God. Yes, you can ignore it. You're going to go through some really ugly, embarrassing scenes in front of other people. It's the only way to get that sorted out. They know you're afraid of them when other people are around. And well, if they're only 1 and 2, wait till they're 5 and 6. Wait till they're 8 and 9. Holy moly. Yeah. If you're afraid of them when you're around other people, they pick up on that. And they're going to be worse and worse and worse. You got to go through some ugly, embarrassing scenes. That's part of it. What are your thoughts on getting a child to eat better? I don't discuss nutrition because that's a medical issue, but I'll tell you what I did with my kids. It's radical. You probably won't do it. I don't eat junk food. So I never had any in the house. I'm a real healthy eater. And the kids knew they can have this healthy food or that healthy food. Plus, I hate cooking, by the way, but I made everything from scratch, everything. Bread, pizza, whatever we were eating, it was all made from scratch. All our cookies and cakes and everything. They were all so healthy. They didn't taste like normal cookies and cakes. My kids, I remember my son, the first time he ever ate like a normal pizza, he couldn't wait to get home and tell me, Mom, the sauce was really weird. It was red. That's because they weren't pureeing spinach and smashing it into the sauce. I could hide healthy stuff in anything. My cookies and cakes were full of like ground up dates and seeds, and just I could smash healthy stuff into anything. So yeah, they knew there was no ice cream waiting for them in the freezer. Okay. So the only thing in our house was healthy. I mean, there was exceptions, but it was when they were little, not so much. No. Okay. Same behaviors are happening at home and school. So you're a teacher. I don't discuss teaching. If you're a teacher, a lot of my clients are teachers and principals and child psychologists, but I don't discuss any of that. That's not my lane. I couldn't help. I don't teach teaching. I'm assuming you're a teacher. Okay. 1.5-year-old tantrum so hard she throws up over seemingly nothing. Still ignore? Yeah, they just go through that stage. Yeah, I would ignore that for sure. Yeah. It's just going to be messy, but you got to be willing to go through this stuff. If you're afraid of them throwing up because they get so upset, I knew a kid who used to shove his finger down his throat to make himself sick because he knew it upset the parents. He was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 when he did it. I've heard lots of kids do that, but I knew one in particular who did that. So yeah, you got to learn that's just their way of controlling you. If it upsets you, they're going to keep doing it. I'm a teacher wanting to be on the same page. I'll tell you why I don't teach teaching, because I couldn't be a teacher. I stay in my lane. A lot of my clients are teachers. They struggle with parenting. They don't know, my methods don't cross over. Like for example, I hate reward charts. I can't stand them. I think they're ridiculous. But they work in school, but they don't work at home. A reward chart for behavior at home says, this is what it says. You're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. Sends the wrong message. At school, it's an institution. It's not personal. It's completely different. So yeah, that's why I don't teach teaching. But a lot of my clients come to me with their kid, like they want to know parenting advice. Because as I said, a lot of it doesn't cross over. Recently, my 2-year-old started shouting no and screaming. Do we just ignore it? Yeah. I would actually go, oh, okay. And I'd walk out, like just calm as anything. Calm. My 4-year-old copies the discipline I use. Example, if I say, no, don't do that. I wouldn't talk like that, by the way. I'll tell you why. I find her later repeating me in a disrespectful way. I don't say things like, no, don't do that. I just wouldn't talk like that. So let's say a kid does something I don't like. I'd say, yeah, that wasn't great. I'll tell you what we'll do. There's going to be a consequence for that if you do it again. So you teach them right from wrong the first time. But if she already knows, say, I didn't like that. There's going to be a consequence. You're going to be unloading the dishwasher tonight. Do you understand? That's what I would say. And then check out the behavior board. It explains all that, how you do that. So yeah, I don't say don't do that. I would never say that. No, don't do that. It's like, it makes you sound like you're scared. It doesn't, I wouldn't talk like that. Yeah. Anyway, and check out the boot camp course. It's from 3 to 12 years old. It's on sale. The sale ends tonight. Should you intervene constantly with a 2 and 4-year-old fight? I don't know what they're fighting. Like, I don't know the situation. What were the 5 tips again? Okay, number 1, this is 5 tips for parenting toddlers. 5 tips for parenting. Oh, by the way, if they're fighting physically, yeah, you have to intervene. But I won't go into that because your friend isn't here. So, but if you were the parent asking, I would have answered more. Okay, so 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is you enter their world to connect with them. You don't connect with a 2-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and you roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is you discipline a toddler in their world. You do not discipline a toddler using a mini therapy session. Words and all these discussing big feelings and big emotions, it's just crap. It's absolute garbage. I know it's trendy right now. It's so stupid. It annoys the heck out of me. Anyway, they're all about consistent corrective action. That is their world. You discipline them in their world also. You bond with them in their world. You discipline them in their world. You don't expect a toddler to find their inner adult to have a therapy session over their big feelings and big emotions. Oh, geez, that drives me nuts. Anyway, because I have to fix all that damage that's done. Anyway, and number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They've got 1 marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Can you imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for the first of those 2 years, you were just a potato laying on a mattress? Like, they just have no context yet. They don't understand things yet. They're too fresh. So yeah, they're not figure outable. They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. My 9-year-old's starting to talk back. I'm trying to stop it before it gets out of control. Any suggestions? Yeah, you want to set yourself up on that behavior board. Check out the boot camp course too. It's from 9 to 12 years old. It's about giving respect to get it. That's what the behavior board's all about. You're on there too. You have a rule and a consequence. So yeah, with a 9-year-old, I'd be saying, what do you want from me? What do you think should be my rule? So long as they're fair and reasonable about it, they should have a say. So yeah, it's about giving respect to get it. I'm going to read out, because you're in the tween years, that's 9 to 12. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting teenagers. It sort of gives you a clue on where you're headed, because I specialize in teenagers, and that's all I'm thinking about whenever I'm talking about parenting is how to get you through those teen years. Never take advice from someone who hasn't finished the job with their own kids. If they haven't lived with teenagers, how can they teach parenting? Also, they have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids with pretty much every challenge you can think of to really have that wealth of information. Yeah, because I had 2 pretty easy kids. I got respect when they were tiny, but they weren't rambunctious, difficult kids anyway. So what did I really learn with them? But the teen years, yeah, you do learn a bit, how to start letting go. And oh, geez. Here are my 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. They already know it anyway. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. Say something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? You negotiate pretty much everything with a teenager. And number 3 is probably the most important. Don't sweat the small stuff. They're allowed to make mistakes just like you did. Save your energy for the big stuff if you even need it, okay? If you're really good at all this, there won't be any big stuff, okay? This is the whole idea. You are passing the leadership torch over to them more. You're still there. When they're 3 to 12 years old, they'll want to please you because you're a leader. When they're teenagers, they just don't want to disappoint you. You want them to want to please themselves more. They're independent. They're more independent. They're growing. They're turning into adults. Okay. Okay, you're asking about autism. I don't discuss autism on here. That is a specialty. I only work with that in coaching, one-on-one coaching. ADHD, those are all the kids I work with. No different from anything else I'm talking about. That's where I learned all this. Kids, I used to call them alphabet kids. ADHD, WXYZ. They all had acronyms after their name. How to ignore tantrums at other people's houses when they're tugging and pulling at you. Yeah, if it's really embarrassing for you, I'd say, look, I'm going to go take it outside till they've calmed down. So you take them in the car or out front or out in the back or in another room, and then ignore them. So if it's that, see, I would just deal with it right there. But yeah, because they eventually learn. And if they're tugging and pulling at you, you physically restrain them if they're getting physical or aggressive. Okay, I actually have a course called Toddler Tantrum Busting. You can check that out in the link above. And if they start getting violent or aggressive, you physically restrain them from doing so. But you still don't look at them or talk to them. You don't say, no, you shouldn't hurt me. It would upset mommy. That's just garbage. You don't do that. That's for you. That's not for them. I'm very opinionated on that because I get all these clients who've gone through all this and it's all backfire. It backfires big time on you. You become a dish rag. They wipe their feet all over you. Okay. How do you discipline in their world for toddlers specifically? It's consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. They don't learn the first time or probably the 50th time. But let's say they have a habit of hitting with a toy. Every single time they hit, you take that toy away and you say no, put it where they can see it but can't touch it for an hour, for the rest of the day, whatever, depending on the age and all that. Has to be consistent though. And it's corrective. So you say one word no. Someone said to me, they said, how do they word it? They said, you said don't use any words, but you say the word no. It's just a quick sign that, hey, something's coming. It's just a signal, something's coming. But yeah, it's about actions. Or you take something fun away from them or remove them from something fun or remove another kid from them. It's got to be a quick, clear message. I could tell you story after story after story. And some client, when I'm working with clients, and some of them will say to me, oh my God, you should have seen the scene. And I said, great. That's what you have to go through. The bigger the scene, the bigger the lesson, because you've given in the past. And they remember the old you. They remember when you were a dish rag and you let them get away with garbage, right? They remember that. So you have to be willing to go through that horrible, awful scene when you start your leadership skills. It's going to get ugly. It usually gets way worse before it gets better. But when it gets better, it's worth it. 3-year-old wants mom, not dad, and can be quiet. So control freak. Yeah, just say, no, I'm busy. And just go off, shut yourself off in a room and let dad do the bath time or whatever. Be willing to go through the scene. Just say, no, dad's doing it. Take control. Be a leader. My kids, I was with my kids all day. So of course they just wanted mom all the time. And I'd say, dad's home. Go spend some time with dad. So, and then I would just, if they wouldn't, I'd go in the sewing room and just start sewing, or that was dad's time. So they learned. But yeah. They never fight you when you're, especially by the age of 3, they just don't. Why would they fight you? They know that what you say is going to happen anyway. And they love that. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel calm. It makes them feel secure when they've got a leader. Oh, you got a 22-month-old, you can't teach them how to share. Yeah, they just don't understand it. You can just teach them how to not grab things off other kids and then make sure they each have something to use. Okay, so you don't just expect them to have one toy and you can't teach a 22-month-old how to share. You can just teach them how not to grab toys out of other kids' hands. So you say no and you grab it and you put it back, give it back to the other kid. I used to tell this story. I can't remember how it goes. Oh, what was it? It was a really good story too, if I do say so myself. But I used to do a lot of TV, and it was one of my favorite stories to tell on TV because they got to be quick and fast, and because you're on live TV, right? So it was a story that I know. There was 2 little kids. They were 2 2-year-olds, Johnny and Sally. I don't know why I use those old-fashioned names, but this is like probably 15 years ago. So Johnny and Sally are in a sandbox, and Johnny hits Sally over the head with his shovel and takes her shovel and pail. And they each had one. So now he's got 2 pails, 2 shovels. I go over very quickly and I say no, and I take both shovels and both pails and give them to Sally. Then I pick him up and I take him away with me. So I remove him so he can't grab them again. And I let him process that. I restrain him from getting back in the sandbox. And then when he goes back in, then I say, okay, say please or whatever. That's not the big deal. It's not about please and thank you. They don't really understand that. But then I'll say to Sally, okay, he gets that back. Then he gets it back. And then you got to watch him like a hawk. But you got to take charge. You got to be fast too. It's got to be right in the moment. And don't discuss it. If you get into these discussions, that's all for you. It's not for your 2-year-old. They're not into mini therapy sessions. He gets it. He understood that when he grabbed that and I gave it all to her, he got it. He doesn't like it, but he got it. And then he knew, because I'm standing right there after that, he knows if he does it again, it's going to happen again. So, because they would look at me, right? They're checking to see, oh, are you still watching? So yeah, you got to go through it. I struggle coming up with reasonable consequences that match not okay behaviors for a 3-year-old. Can you mention a few options? Well, it's usually helping with chores. And if they won't do that, use the behavior board. That's completely free. It's in the link above. Anyway, you put down a rule and a consequence. there's always two consequences for the kids. There's a positive action one, then there's a negative deprivation one if they won't do the positive action. So you put, let's say they break a rule, the rule. There's only one rule on the board. And you say, okay, you broke that rule, so the consequence is you have to empty the dishwasher later on, okay? And it has to be done within 10 minutes of being asked to do so. That's the important thing. You got to put a time limit on it. So you say, and then you don't say anything. While they're not doing it for those 10 minutes, you just don't say a word. Parents get pulled into this. They, you better do it or else you're gonna, no, you don't talk like that. It makes you look like you're afraid of them. Let them dig their own grave. Let them go. So 10 minutes and they still haven't emptied the dishwasher. You say, okay, the behavior board says you didn't do the dishwasher. Now you've got 24-hour media blackout. Do you understand? I'll do the dishwasher and it's too late. You've already got 20. Sometimes they'll even race and do it. Say, well, that's great. Glad you did the dishwasher. Oh, now I get to watch TV. No, 24-hour media blackout started 10 minutes ago. You see, you got to stand by it. And anyway, you got to be willing to take that leadership. Just grab that torch and hang on to it for dear life. They're going to fight you like stink. And that's where all the lesson is. Okay. I'm just finished here now on Instagram. I'm going to be moving over to TikTok. Check out the link above. My sale ends tonight on the boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old. It's my Black Friday sale. It's on Monday. I don't know why it's called Black Friday sale, but anyway, the sale ends tonight at 11:30 my time, which is Vancouver, California time. So anyway, I'm going to be moving over now. I'm also filming. All my lives are on YouTube, the whole hour, but I'm moving over to TikTok for the next half hour. So join me there if you want to. It's Bratbusters Parenting. Thanks for joining me. Okay, just bear with me, YouTube. Takes about 2 minutes before I get enough people to get going. Come on. There we go. Okay. Take about 2 minutes. Hi, Brianna. I am fine. Thank you very much. Okay. Hello, I'm just waiting for people to turn out. You might have come over from Instagram because I just finished my 30 minutes over there. I do my lives, 30 minutes on Instagram, 30 minutes on TikTok, not necessarily in that order. So I've been doing these lives now for about 1.5 years every day, and they were all on TikTok. And now I've got an audience on Instagram. I'm new on Instagram, but I've got an audience there now too. I get about the same amount of people turning up to lives, which is interesting, because I've got about 1/5 of the amount of followers on Instagram, but I got the same amount of people turning up for lives. I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, okay, so thanks for joining me. You might have come over from Instagram. I just finished my half hour over there. I'm also on YouTube at the same time. If you go on the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old. That's on sale, which ends tonight. And then also coaching is the next level up. If you want my one-on-one, you want to work with me one-on-one. That's all done on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. It's usually 1 hour a week is how we do it. Okay, so your parenting questions. Anytime you can go. I just have to take a drink. I've been talking a lot. Okay. Okay, I'm just waiting for your parenting questions. My child whines a lot. How old? 1, 6. I just ignore whining. I don't address attitude. I don't address screaming, whining, complaining. I don't tend to address that. But with the age, if they're older, I would say, if you talk to me in this tone of voice, like, I want that, I won't give you any attention. If you ask nicely, the answer still might be no, but I will address it. I will answer you. So, but if they're under the age of 3, they're not going to get that. She's 2 years old. Yeah, just ignore it. They go through stage after stage after stage. Yeah. How to keep my cool as my son is getting older. I'm losing patience faster, 3.5 years. Okay, that means you got some work to do, because that's when he should be getting easy, because that's when they can stop and think before they act. They have some foresight. They have some control. So if he's getting worse, that means he's going to get worse and worse. So work on your leadership skills. Check out my bootcamp course. The sale ends tonight. That's from 3 to 12 years old, sets you up as a leader. Or just check out my free behavior board is also in the link above, and you can just start there if you want. But yeah, he's taken charge. What happens is by the age of 3, when they can stop and think before they act, if you were a leader, they get easy. They get super easy. If they already have some respect for you, they know you're in charge, they know you know what you're doing, right? But if they know you're not, you don't. If they've been wiping their feet all over you and you've been talking to them through tantrums, trying to negotiate with a toddler to make sure to avoid a scene, they take charge. They hit that age of 3, and that's when the poop hits the fan. They start to take charge. So that could be what's happening. Yeah, you came over from Instagram about the broken tablet. Yeah, I already said check out the boot camp course. At the minimum, check out, if you don't want to buy that course, the sale ends tonight, then do the behavior board. That's free. Check it out. You got to set up some rules. You got to show them that you're in charge. You got to show them you're organized. You got systems. You got routines. The boot camp course is more about setting up routines and systems and getting organized. That's part of leadership, is knowing what you're doing. It's like when you go into school, it's like we do this at this time, this at this time. You got to use some of those tactics at home so that they understand that, they got to do stuff. I mean, they've got to make their bed. They got to go to bed at a certain time. They got to get ready for school every morning. You got to start getting these systems in place. That's part of leadership, is you know what you're doing. You're very calm. You're very organized. You want to be friends with your kids. Once you get all that pesky discipline and respect and all that stuff all sorted out, then you can just relax and have fun with your kids. That's what I did. I didn't have to discipline them. They were self-disciplining. Tips for tantrums before brushing teeth and bath time for 20-month-old. Just wait it out. As soon as they stop, then brush their teeth and get them off to bed. Nothing you can do about it. You can't stop a tantrum. If you think you can, oh, no, you can. You can give in to them. You could probably say, do you want some ice cream? Instead of putting them to bed, they'd probably stop the tantrum. So yeah, you have to follow through. Tantrums are something that it's their way of processing, I want to be in charge. I don't want to do this. And that's your opportunity. Every tantrum seeing fit is your opportunity to exercise your leadership. That's why I love them. I remember once I was working with this kid. I don't remember how old he was. I don't remember the situation. But I do remember a kid threatening me once. And he said to me, if you don't let me do that, I'm going to have a fit. Like, he said that. And you can just imagine what he went through on at home, right? I tried really hard not to smirk, but I went like this. I went, bring it on. And he never did. It's like, are you kidding me? You think I'm afraid of a fit or a scene or a tantrum? That's gold. That's where I shine. You can't manipulate me with that stuff. This kid thought he had it all over me. I knew exactly what was going on at home with that kid. Okay. It's funny. 3-year-old hitting at school. What do? You can't do this with under 3 years old, but at 3 and above, you put down no hitting on the behavior board. And then you make sure that you hear from the teacher if he's hit at school. And then there's a consequence. There's lots of things we do after that. If that's not enough, there's other things we can do with that. But yeah, I would start there. But yeah, you address what's going on at school, at home, once they're 3. If it's a daycare and they're 1.5, it has to be in the moment. And it's not about words anyway, it's about actions. So there's nothing you can do if they're little. My 3-year-old was sent to timeout at preschool for saying whatever and was upset at pickup. How do I address this? I wouldn't address that. I'd say, oh, you did something bad and the teacher dealt with it. Good for her or good for him. I wouldn't address it. If the teacher's taking care of it, that's great. Yeah, it serves you right. If they were probably upset, your kid was probably upset, I'd say, well, it was your choice. If you hadn't done that, that wouldn't have happened. Good for the teacher. Poor teacher having to do that, eh? Like, I would be totally on the teacher's side. Yeah. So I don't know what you're afraid of. Like, what? Why? Because they didn't like it? So? They don't like consequences? Wait till they're older. I shouldn't get any parking tickets. I should park wherever I want. Got to learn accountability here. We've got to learn that for every choice you make, there's a reaction, good or bad. I used to tell my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mom and that's my job. I taught them to be accountable. And everything that happened, I said, that's your choice. They never complained to me. Boy, they never did. Because I'd say, well, if they did, I would have said, so it was your choice to do that. You'd just be glad I wasn't there. My son was where he was in high school, and one of his classmates said to him, they were just chatting, and he said, would you ever break the law? And my son said, are you kidding me? He says, I'd be terrified my mom would get to me before the police could. You're darn right. He couldn't have handled my disappointment. I would have been so disappointed. He couldn't have handled that. Okay, you got a 2-year-old, won't eat and throwing stuff. Okay, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. They're going to go through stage after stage after stage. You just basically wait out the stages. That's basically what it is. Okay, and people always say they won't eat anything. They'd probably be dead if they weren't eating anything. They're probably eating stuff, or you're giving them unhealthy food, right? Yeah, I'd hold out for the healthy stuff. That's just me. But anyway, I'm not a doctor, so I can't discuss nutrition. Okay, here's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is you childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. When you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. You don't connect with them at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. When you're disciplining a toddler, you discipline them in their world. You don't use the mini therapy sessions. That's your world. That's ridiculous. You use consistent corrective actions. Actions are their world. They learn through repetition with actions. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They're crazy, not so much crazy, but they just haven't developed sanity yet. They're not there yet. They're brand new, fresh. Okay, imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like they have no concept of the world yet. So that's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Wait out most stages. They'll go away. They go through stage after stage after stage. You know, when I'm hired by people who have older kids and they also have a toddler, they rarely even mention the toddler. And I'll sometimes bring it up just so I can tell you this. I'll say, what about the toddler? They're just toddlers. Like they get it. They're just toddlers. They're just, don't try and figure them out. But I only ask them that so that they'll tell me that and I can tell you that. What's your favorite stage? By far is teenagers, my absolute favorite stage. When you've got that mutual respect, it's just fun to watch them turn into adults. They're fascinating. And plus they're interesting. They're good company. So yeah, by far my favorite stage is teenager. I also liked working with delinquent teenagers. I learned I was good at it. And I had no experience doing it. And I just started mentoring troubled teens. And turns out I liked it. And they were the ones who told me to teach this stuff. Said, you got to teach this stuff, Lisa. Some of them even said years later, they said, I didn't even like myself till I met you. Yeah, my goal as a leader is to bring out the best in kids. That is my goal, to bring out the best in them, to make them like themselves. Quiet teenagers? No, mine were not quiet. They were fun, though. How to stop a 1-year-old crying to be picked up all the time? Yeah, it's just a stage they're going through, but basically take a really long time picking them up. Say, yeah, okay, I'm coming, and then look sort of like, as soon as I do the dishes, and be really slow, and they might just get bored and go off and do something else. Or you might just say, okay, I'm going to go over and read a book. You sit down and read a book, like their book, read it out loud, and then they might start reading that, and then you can maybe get away and they can read to themselves, or like look at the book by themselves, or go over and play blocks. You sort of get them started. Independent play, but yeah, they're going to go through stages. It's just one stage after the other. My 5 and 8-year-old started saying, I hate myself when they do something wrong. Okay, they say that when they do something wrong. That means so that you'll come into the rescue. Well, you're wonderful. I love you. And you'll soften. So you'll give in to them. That's usually why they do it. If they say it when everything's happy and fine, then I would worry. But if they're only saying it to try and get their own way, it's a way of manipulating you. I hate me. You hate me. I'm awful. I'm the blah, blah, all this. It's just pure manipulation. So yeah. I won't tell you what I've just said. If my kids had said I hate myself, if they did something bad, I won't even tell you what I would have said to them. It's exactly what my mother would have said. I use a lot of sarcasm. But I wouldn't necessarily have said that to other kids. My kids knew me well enough to go, oh, okay, never mind. Like they could not manipulate me. Yeah, boyfriends, teens with bad attitudes, sometimes nice, sometimes a lot of rude. Yeah, okay. My top 3 tips for parenting teenagers, and they're important. All 3 of them are important. Number 1 is most important. No, no, they're all important. Number one is you listen to understand. This is my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. You listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they're going to ask for it. By the way, they already know it. Okay. When you get good at what I call silent listening, they're going to tell you everything. Everything. They just they just will. You'll be a safe place to land because you're not going to tell them what to do. Okay. Number two is you negotiate pretty much everything. That's showing respect. So you might say, look, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Okay. So negotiate pretty much everything. Number three is you don't sweat the small stuff. They're allowed to make small mistakes. If they do something stupid that's not a big deal, say, yeah, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. Save your energy for the big stuff. If you get everything right, you won't have big stuff anyway. But if you do have it, you're going to need it. You're going to need your energy for the big stuff. So then you want to hire me for that stuff. But yeah, they're my favorite age. Yeah. I like newborns too, but it's such a short age. I would say newborns and teenagers are my 2 favorite ages. But newborns are just, it's over like within a week or two. I got a grandchild, my first grandchild due in, I think, 27 days. Not that I'm counting. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching my son be a parent. It's not so much the grandparent stuff because, grandparenting, I've never been excited by it. And the reason is because I have to hand them back. I love mothering. I never had anyone around to help with my kids. I had my husband, he traveled a lot, he worked long hours. It was basically just me and him. And we had no family around, and that was fine by me. But with a grandchild, you have to hand them back. How is that fun? Like, I can just see me in the hospital. Oh, like this. And Mom, can I have my kid? Oh, fine. Like, how is that as fun as parenting? You get to keep them. I guess grandparenting is kind of like renting. It's not the same. I like owning. I like having my own kids. I love my grandchildren, but I'm more excited watching my kids parent. That's what I'm more excited about. Also, my son had tantrums. I'm kind of anxious to see if his kid has tantrums, and then I can just sit back and watch the show, just like you were, sweetie. Should I have said that out loud? Oh, well, I already did. Okay. Toddler says no to everything. Is this common? Yeah, it'll keep going if you respond to it. So yeah, if you say to them, come on, we got to go in the bath, and they say no, and you repeat yourself, we're in bath time, they're going to keep saying it. But I take action. And once I've said something, you have to take action. You don't say it again. You don't repeat yourself. So yeah, if the word no works, they're going to keep saying it. If it never works, they're going to stop saying it. Like my kids never said no. They might have tried it once, but then they realized, well, Mom knows what they would have said no to their dad, though. He was the pleaser. I was the leader. There's very rare. Usually there's one leader in the family, and that was me. And that's okay. You only need one leader. That was my mother. My dad was the pleaser. I remember trying to get away with stuff with my dad. I'd ask him something when Mom was out of earshot. Daddy, can I do that? And he'd say, sure, sweetie pie. He called me sweetie pie. He was a real pleaser. He was a sweetheart. And sure, sweetie pie. And he'd say, just let me check with Mommy first. And I go, oh, never mind. How do we know who the leader is? Can one person do both? Well, the pleaser. Why would you want to be a pleaser? A pleaser lets kids walk all over them. That's what a pleaser is. Whenever I talk about it, you're the dish rag, you're the doormat that they wipe their feet on. So you don't want to be the pleaser. You're always trying to please them. You're afraid of them. That's what I mean by pleaser parent. You do not want to be the pleaser parent. That's the worst. The old-fashioned authority style parent wasn't bad, although it built rebellion and resentment in the teen years. But the kids come out the other end stronger, and they appreciate their parents and respect them for doing that. The pleaser parent, on the other hand, is a dish rag. Kids wipe their feet all over them. They never respect them. And then they raise self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. It's a total disaster. It's been trending now for 30 years. And I saw it coming 30 years ago, and it started with participation awards. Is that the stupidest thing you ever heard in your whole life? You just get an award for turning up. And then I even heard, I remember once I read this article, and this mom was complaining her son didn't get a participation award. He didn't feel like going to the practice or the game that day, but she wanted him to get a participation. He didn't even participate. You can just imagine what he turned out like, right? But anyway, he didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver lady. Like, you can just imagine what you're raising when you get the pleaser parent's a total disaster. You don't want to do it. You want to be the leader. The leader is the fun one too. The leader is the one that knows how to have fun with kids. You're organized, you got systems in place. And because you never have to deal with discipline, you can just be fun all the time. The pleaser is still fighting with the kids, trying to get them on their good side, trying to please them. It's wishy-washy. It's a disaster. I don't know how old your kids are. If they're fighting, I don't know how old they are. You have to tell me their ages. And you have to put the whole question in and then the age. Because if you just put ages, I don't know what question you were asking. Husband leaves for military. How do I become the leader after being a pleaser? Just keep watching. That's all I teach is how to be a leader. And most of my clients are pleasers when they come to me. I don't get as many authorities. Oh no, I do, but the pleaser hires me. The authority. If parents come to me, there's either two pleasers or a pleaser and an authority. Okay, but the authority never hires me unless they're teenagers. Then they will, because they get desperate, and it's very hard to find someone who specializes in teenagers. So yeah, anyone will hire me in the teen years. But yeah, when they're younger, the authority just always thinks they can take control. It's not a bad way to parent, but there's a better way, being the leader. But yeah. So just keep watching. If you want to be a leader, keep watching. Okay. And also that boot camp course, the sale ends tonight. It's 3 to 12 years old. That's 5 weeks setting you up as a leader. Yeah, that ends tonight, my time at 11:30. I don't understand that because it's Black Friday. I don't do a lot of the back end stuff in my business. And I thought, isn't it Black Friday? How come the sale goes all weekend? I just didn't quite understand that. But evidently that's what Black Friday sales do. There's Black Monday too. Black Saturday, Sunday. Anyway, I don't question it. Okay, how to help my daughter who is 6 from hitting, pushing, and being mean to her sister age 4. It's a good one. It's actually a perfect one for me to answer. That is, you put on the behavior board, no hurting your sister. And then every time she does, she has to give her favorite toy to play with for an hour or whatever. So let's say she has something that she prizes that she never wants her younger sister to touch. That younger sister gets to play with it exclusively, usually with you, so the older one can't join in. And they get to play with that toy for a whole hour or whatever, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever. Or they get to keep it in their room for the rest of the day or something. So it's like you did something mean to her. Now you do something nice for her. That's how you do that one. That one is one of my most effective and commonly used methods in my course, in the boot camp course, and also in coaching. That one's a good one. You're mean to your younger sister or brother. Now you got to do something nice. They get to play with your favorite toy. So they hate that one. That's actually one parent said they never did it again. There was one time they had to share it. It was something they absolutely prized that their younger sister got to play with. And they never hit them again. It's not always that easy. So how do you proceed with that example if said child is throwing a full tantrum? You mean the 6-year-old throwing a full tantrum? So you just ignore it. You physically restrain them if you have to by touching that toy. The tantrums are their process. Everyone's afraid of a tantrum. To me, I love it. I love it because that's them processing not getting their own way. That is how they're processing it. Every tantrum is one step in the right direction if you ignore it. If you give into it, it's one step in the wrong direction. But if you ignore it, you're heading in the right direction. Why are you afraid of tantrum? Why is everyone so afraid of a tantrum, a scene, a fit, an outburst? That is where the gold is. That is their brain processing. I don't get what I want, when I want, how I want it. I'm not in charge. That is how they process it. If they're used to getting their own way and manipulating you and hurting other people, and all of a sudden you put an end to it, they're going to have a fit. And that is their process. Don't interrupt that process. Allow them to do that. Allow their brain to build new patterns that, wait a minute, I have to actually be nice. Okay? There's nothing wrong with teaching children to be nice and respectful. That's what this is all about. I just did a video on that. And it was, I control my TikTok. I have other people doing other stuff, but I know exactly what's on TikTok because I do that. I do all the videos, obviously, but I never know when they're going anywhere else. But I just did a video on embrace tantrums, outbursts, and scenes. Ooh, I might not have put it up yet. It's in my drafts. I'll put it out tonight. Yeah, it's in my drafts, I think. Anyway, I'll post that tonight. Embrace that. That is, whenever a kid has a fit with me, I have a hard time not smirking. It's like, oh, one step in the right direction. That's the way I look at it. I know parents always say, how do I keep my cool? And I say, well, I keep my cool because I know, hey, I'm winning here. I'm the leader. I have to win this battle. And ignoring a tantrum is winning. You have to win the battles. You can't allow your children to win. You can't allow them to be the leaders. That's ridiculous. They're kids. They desperately need, crave, and want a leader. If you don't provide that for them, you're going to send them out in the world very vulnerable to other things. They're going to be very vulnerable and susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be extremely vulnerable because you're not a leader. When you're a leader, they're not vulnerable at all. They come home and tell you everything. They run everything by you right through the teen years because you're a safe place to land. That's what a leader is. I told my mother everything, and my kids told me everything. I found out I wasn't sure. My son was for sure, but yeah, I found out later. Yeah, and he didn't do anything that I didn't know about. Like, not, but you know what I mean. Told me a lot more than I wanted to know sometimes because I was a safe place to land. He was 15 and he says, "You've been a really difficult mother." And I was like, "What?" And he was upset when he said it. "You've been a really difficult mother." And I was like, I thought it was great. I thought, what? We were really close and everything. And he says, yeah, he says, "I've got nothing to rebel against. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to." That was a problem. So anyway, I said, fine, go clean your room. He never did. Rebellion taken care of. But yeah, be reasonable and easy to talk to. Okay. How do you correct toddlers hitting? I have a whole course on that if they're toddlers who hit, bite, etc. It's in one of my mini courses. Also, again, my boot camp course sale ends tonight, so you might want to check that out. And the behavior board's free. That doesn't start till they're 3, though. They have to be able to stop and think before they act to be on that behavior board. They can't really do that clearly until they're 3. Doesn't mean they will, but they have the ability to learn to stop and think before they act. Okay, I feel I'm very authoritative and then bounce. Oh, I got a whole spiel on this one. I fear I am very authoritative and then bounce to compromising everything, need help. So what you do is you come in hard. Okay, I'm in charge. This is it. And then you run out of steam because you've come in too hard. You've come in as the authority. It's a very demanding position to be in. It's not a good one. It's not a pleasant feeling either to be the authority. So yeah, I don't do that. I'm the leader. It's quite different. So yeah, then you go, oh, phew, and you run out of steam, and then all of a sudden you just become the pleaser again. You go back and forth and back and forth. Most of my clients do that. They say, I got it, I just decided one day I was going to do that, but then they weren't consistent, and it was just too much too soon. It's like dieting and saying, all I'm going to eat is an apple a day. It's kind of like that. You got to get a plan in place. You got to get it manageable. That's why when I'm working with parents or in my boot camp course, the first week is one rule. The second week, you add another rule. Now you got 2 rules you're dealing with. You see, it's one step at a time. Then the third week, you've got 3 rules, 3 different behavior boards. I call them battles. You've got 3 battles you're working on. By the end of 3 weeks, you've only got 3 battles. That's it. Now you're starting to get it. You're starting to feel like a leader. You're starting to understand how to do all this, how to give respect to get it, how to teach your children how to be accountable. They're starting to look at you differently. Then you get away from the behavior boards in the boot camp course, and then you start doing in the moment discipline in week 4. It's right in the moment you can start just coming up with stuff. You start to get it, and the kids start to get easier. That's the whole idea behind that. But yeah, if you come in too hard, too fast, and try and solve everything in one day, which is what I would do, by the way. But if you're not like that, because I'm level 10 with what I teach. But if you're just learning how to do all this, parents tend to do that. They come in too hard, too fast. They're going to fix everything in one day, and then they burn out. That's why it's 1 rule per week. That's paced out very specifically. I worked on that course for a very long time, and it's paced out. Well, I didn't work on that course so much for a very long time, but I've been coaching for 17 years. I know how to pace parents out, and that course is a reflection of that, of my coaching. It's not as extensive as coaching, but it's the same idea. And parents will often say in the first week, yeah, it's only 1 rule. What about all the other crap they're doing? And say, so that's none of our business. Who cares? We're working on 1 rule at a time because you're teaching yourself how to be a leader. Okay? Yeah, I would say that's most of my parents. They say, my clients, they come to me. They say, yeah, we tried to fix everything. We went in and then they burn out. We all do that. I do that with stuff. Okay, I'm going to get everything done. I'm going to do it. And then I'd end up sitting down, doing nothing. So you just take on too much too fast. And it's not sustainable. That's why I've paced it all out. By the way, if you buy that boot camp course, I don't know why I'm pointing my finger at you. Don't go right. Everyone wants week 4. Don't go straight there. Read the whole course, but start with week 1. Don't rush the course. You can elongate it by a week or 2. You might go on holidays. It's Christmas. Things might happen, right? So you can elongate it, but don't try and shorten it. Yeah, those first 3 weeks especially, do not try and shorten that. Oh, you're new here. Welcome. I get a lot of regulars on here. So it's funny because that what'll happen is if I can't get to all I don't get to all the questions. So people who are regular on here, they'll answer them for me. So it's like, which I really appreciate because they already know what I'm going to say anyway. I think, I don't know what's going on here. Usually I go, oh, I know it, but I don't know what you mean by this. I think my kids resent nannies, babysitters, though we're very involved parents. Is that a thing? I don't know. I'd have to assess that. I don't know what you mean by that. How old are they? Why do they resent them? What's their resentment? What form does it come in? So I would have to assess that whole situation first. If you want my help, you'd have to hire me. I have to assess that before I could answer that. And what kind of parent? You also say you're very involved, but a lot of parents are very involved, but they're not bonded and connected with their kids. And they can't think, oh, I'm with them. I take them everywhere. I do it. And I say, yeah, how are you connected with them? And they go, what? And I'd say, are you connected with your kids? There's a difference between doing a lot for your kids and bonding and connecting. That's what I'm all about. Leaders bond and connect with your kids. That's really important. So sometimes you're missing that. There's something missing. So I don't know. My mother-in-law kids are 15 and are off. My mother-in-law kids are 15 and awful. Is it too late to change that? My mother-in-law kids are 15. I don't know. I'll just say 15. They're rotten when they're 15. They're awful. Well, I specialize in teenagers. So yeah, it's all fixable, but it's an investment in time and energy. It's hard work, but yeah, it's worth it. Yeah. Do the most common ages when I'm hired for teenagers, because that is my specialty, is with girls, anywhere from 12 to 16 is the most common age. And with boys, it's just turned 15. Most parents who have teenage boys that hire me, their son has just turned 15. It's that age. It's really funny. Girls are 12 to 16. I get hired by people with 18-year-olds, 13-year-olds, but boys are just, it's most common. Isn't that interesting, eh? I know why. I've figured it out. I've lived with a boy too. Like I've raised my son. I get it, but it's like so common. It's hilarious. I gotta have a drink. Actually, it's been an hour and 2 minutes now, so that I've been doing a live. I did a half hour on Instagram, and then I've done 32 minutes on TikTok. My voice starts to give out, and I gotta save that because I do coaching in that too. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me. The sale ends tonight on the bootcamp course. It's gone really well. People seem to appreciate the 25% off. It's my Black Friday sale, and it'll go back to regular price tomorrow, which is $197. So I think it's $147 right now or something. Anyway. And then check out the toddler courses. They're all mini courses. And then the free behavior board. And then the top level is coaching one-on-one with me. That's obviously the most intensive thing. It's usually done it's all done on Zoom, but it's usually done 1 hour per week. And anyway, thanks so much for joining me. And what else? I was going to say something else. I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm going to make sure that I put that course up tonight, that video up tonight, if I haven't already done so, on TikTok. Embrace tantrums, outbursts, and scenes. I don't think I did that one. I'm not sure, but I'll make sure I put that up right after this. I'll make sure I get that one out. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll be back again tomorrow night on my regularly scheduled live. It's in the link. Take care. Bye now.